What is up, everybody? It's Dr. Vibe here, host and producer of the award-winning The Dr. Vibe Show. I have hosted and produced over 2,000 epic conversations over the last 10 years. And what makes our conversations epic? We don't do interviews. We do conversations. What is up, everybody? It's Dr. Vibe here, host and producer of the award-winning Dr. Vibe Show. As always, I like to say you're blessed, highly favored, a magnet for miracles, and a solution for someone's problem. Also know I am a certified empowerment coach, president, and CEO of Express Your Vibe Coaching and Communications, and this is the home of Epic Conversations, and I'm the host of Epic Conversations. Starting a little bit late today, but I think between Dr. Chetachi and myself, we found a way with our live streaming, because we've had challenges live streaming today, but we are back, and I am humbled and blessed to have two powerhouses back because the demand is there. And first up, we have Dr. Chetachi from Fort Lauderdale. How we doing, Dr. Chetachi?
I am fine, but may I tell you, I am not from Fort Lauderdale. I simply live here.
Live. Sorry. I should know better. Can I do this and get forgiveness?
Wakanda Forever will work today.
Okay. Yeah. Between you and I, definitely. And from are you in Bolivia? Are you in another country? Because Lia's the world traveler, so we never know where you're at.
That's true. I'm still in Bolivia. I'm just in a different city.
Okay. Well, this is fantastic. Well, last week we had such an epic conversation with these ladies, and the audience wanted them back. So, as always, I have my friends say, what do you want to talk about? So, I'm going to let the lady who brought this conversation live today introduce the conversation. So, Lia, what we talking about tonight?
Well, we are going to be talking about why it seems like Black women are demonized more than Black men when they choose to date or marry outside of the race. I brought this up because I've been seeing a lot of things in media lately and in conversations with my friends where it seems like Black women catch a lot more flack and are criticized and given side eye and talked about when they decide to date outside of the race. Whereas for Black men, especially prominent Black men in larger society who regularly date outside of the race and prefer to, it's just sort of accepted. And so I kind of wanted to talk a little bit about that phenomena and get to the bottom of why that seems to be the case. Why is it okay for one and not for the other?
Fair enough. Tachi, when you saw this topic, and I'm looking at Tachi's face right now, I'm going, should I duck now or should I run now? So Tachi, what were your first thoughts when Lia brought this to the table?
Oh, it's true. It's 100% true. People are not interested in the happiness of Black women. They're interested in Black women being strong. They're interested in Black women being intelligent, smart, all these other qualities. But happy? How dare you? So your happiness has to look like the way society, Black men, etc. wants your happiness to look.
Okay, you know I love to listen. You have to go deeper in saying people are not interested in Black women's happiness. Why do you feel that so?
Oh, absolutely, because we've been positioned, and again, this is not anything that happened overnight. This was centuries of conditioning when it comes to these types of things. If you go back to, I'm not going to start, let me not start with African society, because that's something different entirely. But when you start with the African presence in the Americas, and consistently Black women are, of course, having to head the households now because families are being split apart. So that legacy of what we see today is a legacy of what happened in the times of African enslavement. I hate saying slaves because that's a condition. They were enslaved Africans. So that's a legacy from that time. So from that time, we're seeing where your happiness is secondary to the struggle. Your happiness is secondary to your children's lives. Your secondary basically as a Black woman is happiness. And so that's why I'm saying there's no interest in the happiness of Black women at all. Even when, there's this whole thing about the quote unquote angry Black woman, which is the meme, as I call it, or the stereotype of the angry black woman. So number one, that's not entirely true. I know several black women who are quite happy. But even if it were true, do black women not have the right to be angry? I'm just saying, there's a lot that has gone on. So because of that, I think there's less of an interest in black women being truly happy. You're supposed to be, you are a sacrificial lamb for others first, and then if you happen to be happy second, that's nice.
Exactly.
Lia, I know that you're agreeing with that. What would you like to add to that comment?
I agree with that. I feel like, everything that Dr. Tachi said is true. And I would go one step further and say that there's also an expectation that black women need to sacrifice. Because sacrifice for the struggle, sacrifice for the community, sacrifice for their man, sacrifice for their children. And somehow in all of that sacrifice, they're never sacrificing for themselves. So in order to uplift the black man, or uplift the community, which is totally on the backs of black women, by the way, there's no room left for their own happiness. There's no room left for their pursuit of love in whatever form that takes. And then when they actually are audacious enough to put themselves first and seek out love in whatever form that takes, they're demonized for it.
Mm-hmm. I didn't get a chance to research deep into this, but maybe both you being black women can give some perspective on the history of this issue. Any comments, any perspectives from historical place that you'd like to share with our audience?
So I think my limited knowledge of this in a historical sense, I will share a little bit of this. I think, well, for a very long time, there had been a reluctance by black women to date or marry outside of black men for a couple of reasons. Two being that you felt like you were betraying black men or betraying the race when you did do that. Also, the legacy of what happened to many black women during slavery in terms of being taken advantage of and raped, etc., by not other men but white men. Okay, so there is that feeling there of, why would I, when XYZ happened historically and nothing has seemed to change, so why would I do that? And then, the third thing is, we have done such a good job of cultivating self-esteem, regardless of whatever happens. Most of our movements are rooted in self-esteem. In fact, it was Bell Hooks in Salvation, Black People in Love, that talked about the fact that so many of our movements, while we have made strides, have not been complete successes because they lacked a love ethic and they were too busy about cultivating self-esteem in black men and women and children. So I think those are three reasons that there tends to be more villainization is not a word, but I'm making it a word. More villainization when it comes to that. I think I'm not just blaming men. We have also been guilty. Black women have been guilty of perpetrating that. So for every oppressor needs an accomplice. So.
And I would add one thing to what Dr. Tachi said. I agree with everything. I would say for me personally, and this isn't just my own experience, but one that I know many of my other black females have shared, I don't trust when men of other races are interested in me, because I think for so long black women have been fetishized, eroticized. We've been told that we're the Hottentot Venus. Everybody thinks we're fast. Everybody sexualizes black women. So I may have missed out on opportunities to find love with men, non-black men in my past, because I didn't trust that their interest in me was genuine. So I shut them down before they even had a chance to say hello to me, because I didn't trust that their interest in me was beyond the sexual realm, which probably was my bad. And I agree that, I'm not going to put all the fault on society and black men. I think some of it is black women perpetuating these same, legacies that we've carried down over time, and we put it on ourselves and we teach it to the next generation. So all of the things that Dr. Tachi said are true, and I would add that I think there's a lack of trust because of the way in which black women are portrayed in society, portrayed in videos, portrayed on television, portrayed in pop culture. So when a non-black man expresses interest in a black female, I think it's always met initially with some suspicion, like, you just want to have sex, right? Or you just think you won't get it, right? It's not necessarily because he actually finds you intelligent or beautiful or interesting or you have something in common. Even though those things may be true, that's not the first thought that goes through your mind. So I know in my case, in all of my travels around the world, not just in the United States, because this is not exclusive to the United States or Canada, I have never really given the time of day to any men outside of my own race because I don't trust their intentions, or didn't.
Excellent. And I'd like to say there's a number of people already chiming in, watching live. Please feel free to give your questions, comments, thoughts. I will share them with our, when I'm with black men having conversations I call black male thought leaders. Well, I'm with two black women thought leaders tonight. So black girl magic, black woman magic is happening. So please share your comments, thoughts. Dr. Tachi, Lia mentioned the whole aspect of media to this subject, and media is your wheelhouse. So what would you like to say about how the media has contributed in a not positive way when it comes to this subject?
Exactly what my soror said. She was talking about the whole she was talking about the whole fact of being hypersexualized, the Hottentot Venus, and that type of thing. And I think it's because of stereotypes. I won't even say past stereotypes, because we still see aspects of it. It continues, and it continues not by our own hands. Mona Scott Young, Love and Hip Hop. So it continues, we perpetuate this as well. And so you see that in the media in not a positive light, because there still continues to be the perpetuation of the old stereotypes, the not so much the tragic mulatto, but sometimes the tragic mulatto, all the different stereotypes that you've seen still have not gone away. They still remain at the surface. And I think that's what we're seeing in media. Although I will say, on a note that you could perceive to be positive, you'll look at commercials and you're seeing handfuls now that feature families that have a black woman and a man of a different ethnicity. Most of the time white, but some other times other ethnicity. So you're starting to see the acceptance, because it's happening. What's happening is we've also been fed this myth, even though for the most part, yes, they're in terms of interracial or interethnic coupling, it tends to be black men with other more than black women. However,
okay, unfortunately, we lost Dr. Tachi for a
I'm
moment.
here.
Oh, you're okay. Oh, okay. Now you're back.
Oh,
maybe it's that camera you have.
Huh?
We lost you for a second, and then you came back. So I don't know. Maybe it's that same camera issue you have on your.
No. I'm using my laptop camera now.
Yeah,
I'm not using my other camera.
We lost you for a second, but it's all good. You're back. No problem.
Okay, fantastic. What the hell was that? But in any case, you see, even though it's as I said, more on one side, you do see that it's always been there have always been interracial couplings that involve women with another. But as Lia said, there's often this mistrust. Are you fetishizing me? What are your true intentions? And so I think there's been that level of mistrust, why it's been less. And then you have also, in terms of media, Stupid, I remember very well, because I went to work incensed. I went to the university like, how dare you? And I talked to the psychology department because there was a Psychology Today article, remember, I don't remember this researcher's name in quotes, but he was an Asian man who did a study about black women and Asian men and how they were deemed less attractive. So I'm saying this because Psychology Today is like pop psychology. It's not like true psychological research. And of course, received a lot of Psychology Today down, but you have that. And when you have a quote, what people don't know is that Psychology Today they don't know it's pop psychology or looking at, they think it's, this is real research and there's numbers behind it, therefore it's true. Black women are just bloody ugly. That is what happens, and that starts to affect the nature of our relationships with others. It really does. So that's another example of media perpetuating negativity.
I'm just going to jump in before your soror joins you with that comment, that one of the things I've seen in media is that we went, from my perspective, there was a number of years we only saw white on white couples. Then you saw black male, white female interracial couples. And now we're seeing black female, non-black male couples. I didn't see a long period of time spent black on black love. Maybe it's me. I don't know if a lot of time was spent on it, but it just seemed that that time period of advertising, maybe I'm out to lunch, but I just seemed that it went from, okay, black male, white female, then all of a sudden, okay, black female, white male. I don't see too many black male, black male, black female. Maybe that's me. Tachi, am I off base on that?
Well, you also have to look at things. Even though you're in Canada, Canada is a separate country altogether, and so you have separate media. Though there's a lot of crossover, you all have
Sure.
rules in terms of how much American media can actually be over there. So there may be some differences because of the fact that you are in Canada. You do see some of that, but I think, and this is not excusing it, but I think part of it is also because traditionally advertisers, media people had this stupid notion that audiences did not want to see all black, or that they would not respond well to all black. All you have to do now is look up two words, Black Panther, and that that erased all of it. But it didn't just start with Black Panther. It's always been like that. So I think that the advertising industry and media in general has taken the liberty of saying what people wanted without really finding out what people wanted. With the exception of some places in America, I think many people don't really care. Oh, two black people in a Tide commercial, so what? In certain places they may care, but in other places not so much. So I think it's also misguided notions of what they think people want to see as to why we're not seeing them in commercials and in different places. That's just my thought.
Okay. Lia, we haven't let you speak for a bit, so I want to get you back in. So anything you want to add from the most recent conversation pieces?
Sure. What I would say is, I think you're right in terms of media advertising. I remember seeing the Cheerios commercial that ended up having a hugely negative backlash because it featured an interracial couple with a biracial child. And instead of just enjoying the commercial for what it was, having this little girl worried about her father's health by putting the Cheerios on his chest, and again, it's a black man with a white woman, people were just freaking out over the fact that Cheerios chose to use an interracial couple and their biracial child to promote their product. I do agree, though, with Dr. Tachi in the sense that now with Black Panther showing that all black everything is highly marketable, and that they've been fools basically up to now, not taking advantage of this demographic and the pop culture cachet that blackness has. Shows like Blackish, Grownish are also doing quite well, showing positive images of black family life, black love, where there's a black male and black female protagonist in terms of the heart and center of the family. I still don't think it's enough. And I think that, like Dr. Tachi said, it's not necessarily marketable to show positive images of black love or black relationships. It doesn't sell. What sells are the things that perpetuate stereotypes and that bring a certain element of drama, which of course is the lowest common denominator, but unfortunately that's what sells and that's what people want to consume. So they're less interested in things like watching a show about a funky black family, a black relationship at one of the housewives of whatever city, which isn't necessarily bad TV, but those relationships in my view are not very functional. They're not real. I mean, because a lot of it is, reality TV is reality TV. It's scripted. It's not real anyway. So you're not really getting a true view of what those relationships are, but they're sloppy. It's messy. So, but that's what sells. The people like the drama. They don't want to see something that might be more mundane, but might actually represent a large swath of African Americans globally who are in positive, thriving relationships where there's a Black female and a Black male.
Okay, good stuff. We have one of our viewers, live viewers, Dango S, saying our society is racist. So if you can deal with it, more power to you. But you better have your head screwed on right, because other races have their own issues about Black women.
Exactly. It goes back to what we were saying earlier about the fetishizing and believing stereotypes about Black women and about who Black women are. And like Dr. Tachi said, and I alluded to earlier, it isn't just what's being perpetuated in larger society. It's also what you see in all of the videos on TV. You watch, all these rappers, and they have all these trap queens in their videos, shaking their asses, dancing around in strip clubs. The whole strip club life is being promoted as what's hip, what's cool, what's trending. And I'm not knocking that lifestyle, but that's what's glorified. So it's not glorified women who are in college, getting jobs, working a 9-to-5 grind. You don't see those women being held up as examples or paragons of what society should strive to be. You see women with big asses who are hustling to make their money whatever way they need to, and those are the women that tend to be fetishized, and that's the expectation or the idea that people then take about the larger group of Black women, is that we're that. It used to be that we were the welfare queen, now we're the trap queens.
Can I add to that, Ed, because it's really interesting that you're talking about the trap queens. I was, how it's like the train wreck and you can't help but watch. So I was going past Love and Hip Hop, and one of the characters from Love and Hip Hop, Stevie J, I actually went to high school with. And so every time I'm like, okay, this is interesting. What is he saying now? So I was watching, and he was actually looking to date this woman who is an attorney in Atlanta and has things together, and she was completely different. In fact, he said, oh, she's completely different from like the other girls that I know, as if she was a unicorn. And what happens in the media is those Black women that are, even though we're presented as, successful and things in some light, they're still the predominant trap queen narrative. And so because of that, when you do see an attorney or whatever that, on television, wow, it is an anomaly, because on a show like that, I have never seen anybody that was worth I shouldn't say that. Everybody's worth something, but I shouldn't say that. But that attorney, the woman that was an attorney, those are the type of people that I'm normally around. That is my narrative. That is what I know. I don't know trap queen. If you are, good for you, more power. I hope you're getting your money. However, that's not my world, and that's not what I know. And what media is guilty of doing is only presenting one world, that trap world. That's not everybody's world. I mean, Lia and we're in an organization that is 250,000 plus college educated women. And that's just one of our organizations. There are probably millions worldwide. So, we're only seeing one narrative. And unfortunately, that narrative speaks for Lia and myself. And that's how we get viewed when we walk down the street.
And that's also why I don't trust, or didn't trust when I was single, when non-Black men would approach me, because my assumption was that that's what they thought they were going to get, or that they'd be able to get a one-night stand from me, or they'd be able to have a fling with me and not take me seriously. So whether or not that was their intention, I didn't even open the door to allow them to even try to get to know me more, because I was thinking, I need to protect myself. They don't care about me. They just want to be able to have a story to tell. I'm not going to be their story.
It's sad. Yeah.
Powerful.
And it's unfortunate, because I may have shut the door on some very positive relationships, something very meaningful. And I'm sure in some cases they genuinely liked me as a person, but I didn't let them even get so far as to show me that. I just automatically assumed that they were only interested in one thing, and I wasn't there for that.
So let me ask both of you, when you have conversations about this subject with women who maybe, whether they're single, whether they're in relationships with Black men, or whether they're in relationships with non-Black men, what sort of conversation pieces are you having, and what sort of topics are you hearing? And I want to hear Lia first, because Lia brought this to the table first.
Okay. Well, when I talk to my friends who are in interracial relationships, we mostly just talk about some of the funny cultural differences in terms of interpreting certain things. For instance, one of my closest friends is just now engaged to an Indian American man. And to me, I think that's wonderful because their love is genuine. I see how happy she is. I see how well he treats her. I see how she uplifts him. I see how they just kind of have like this bond, which to me is the bonds of love being manifested through their relationship. So we don't ever talk about the fact that she's African American and he's Indian American, but what we do talk about are the funny little differences in when he comes to her house to have dinner with her family versus when she goes to his house to have dinner with his family. And some of the differences in terms of food choices and the way in which they greet one another, the way in which they interact with one another, the music that's playing in the background. Those types of things are the things that come up. And some of the cultural references that you would be able to use in an all-Black relationship aren't necessarily cultural references that his family would recognize quickly or immediately, and vice versa. There are things that they're talking about that she's like, I don't know what they're talking about. So he has to kind of fill her in. And so in a way, I kind of think that makes things fresh for them because there's always something to learn. But I also think that's one of the arguments for Black love in the sense that you'll automatically understand those ins, those cultural nuances that are just part of being Black. So those are some of the benefits that I think being in a Black-Black relationship have, because you don't have to explain certain things. I have another friend who dated white men almost exclusively during her college years because that was her preference. So we never talked about that. She likes who she likes. You know, that's just how it goes. But she said there were numerous times that she would have to explain things to them about why she covered her hair at night, or why she wrapped her hair, or why she would, put on, Vaseline or something on her feet and put socks on during the winter months. And things like that, things that maybe might be a Black woman beauty decision, but something that was foreign to them. So she would have to explain, okay, I need to wrap it up at night because of blah, blah, blah. But with a Black man, they'll see that and be like, oh, she's just wrapping her hair up. So we end up usually having conversation about those little things that exist in Black culture that don't exist in other cultures and vice versa. In the case of my friend who is engaged with the Indian American man, his family has cultural things that she does not understand. So he has to explain those things to her.
Okay. Dr. Touch, anything you want to add?
No, that she basically summed up everything. It's interesting. Go ahead, sorry.
So I'm going to take this to another room in the house here.
Okay.
Of course, I'm sure you have some thoughts about Black men when it comes to this subject. So who wants to jump into that room first?
Lia?
Thanks. I mean, I'm not exactly sure what you're getting at, but I think you're saying in terms of like the sexual compatibility or... No,
actually, where I'm going with this is that the topic is that Black women who date out of race get more of a hard time than Black women.
Yes.
So where I'm going with this is how do these Black women who are dating out of race, how do they handle the Black men who aren't for it, or the Black community that's not for it? Because you've already spoken about the non-Black community, but let's talk about the Black community when it comes to this subject, whether it's Black women, Black men, they're either pluses or not pluses, especially many of them not liking it.
Sure.
Or what I'm saying, giving the men the easier ride. Or giving the men the easier ride than the woman.
They are. Just period. I would say what I've seen and what my friends who've dated outside of their race, females, specifically Black females, they are given a harder time. They're teased a lot more about it. Like, oh, did you bring your white boy? Oh, you're a sellout. Oh, you're a traitor. You need to get you a Black man. Why are you giving all your good stuff away? Those types of things, comments that are never made to the Black male equivalent who's dating a white girl. They might get teased a little bit like, oh, you're just doing it for the sex, or there's like rumors that, white women are more willing to do certain things sexually than Black women are, or they're easier to get along with, Black women are difficult, that kind of stuff, so they're wanting to go the easy road. So I feel like they get razzed in those types of ways, but I definitely feel like Black women in general get a lot more flack for dating outside of the race, and usually it's like what Dr. Tachi said earlier about being a traitor. You know, a black woman's role is to uplift the black community. A black woman's role is to support the black man. So by being with someone who is not black, she's already denying those things and those responsibilities that she's innately responsible for. And so I think that there's some level of, you know, belief that that's the case, whether it's on a subconscious or conscious level. And so I think every time I've seen a black woman with a non-black man, there's always head turning, there's always whispering, there's always somebody has something smart to say. Whereas when you see a black man with a white woman, yes, usually there may be some snide comments, but people are just, it's more like accepted. They're like, okay, whatever. And the argument that I always hear that black women are frustrated with is, especially with our prominent football players, basketball players, movie stars who don't have black wives or don't date black women and choose to be with non-black women. And the question is, why are you not choosing to be with a black woman? Why are you choosing to deny the opportunity to spread wealth in the black community by having a black mate? Now what you're doing by marrying another white woman is continuing the perpetuation of white wealth and black poverty, because now if you die, all your stuff goes to this white woman and her white family. So I'm not saying that there's not genuine love in some of those relationships, but that's the argument, and those are some of the things that I hear.
Tachi?
So it goes back to black women's happiness being secondary to everything else. That at the crux of it, that's it. That people are not interested, even black women are not interested in the happiness of black women, because at the end of the day, it's, you know, I've dated every ethnicity. And I've never been silent about that. And my thing was like, I dare you to say so, any of you, I dare you to say something, because at this particular point in time, I am with who is respecting me and who makes me happy. So, you know, that's the point of view I've taken of it. But it's really because, like, as Lia said, it's more accepted. It's you don't hear those same comments. Look at, and it's not every athlete, but so many athletes, and here's the thing, I have no problem with it as long as you're not doing it because you somehow despise yourself. And often there is the aspect, and there are some people who need to be truthful about it, that they are they so despise themselves, their black selves, that they are trying to unblack themselves by doing this. There are some people that really, and even they may not even think about that, but subconsciously, some people may be doing that. And so in terms of the black men that may have comments, the interesting thing is, like, okay, let's take Serena Williams. You had everything to say about how mannish she was, how this, how that, and she was dating brothers the whole time. Now that she's married Alexis Ohanian, I believe is his name, from Reddit, now you have everything to say. No witch, but she's ugly. No witch, but she's a man. So now you have a problem. So it's very interesting, the double standards, and the now you decide it's like a toy, where, you know how kids, they leave the toy to the side, but when another kid decides to come and play with it, now they want to play with the toy. Now I want it, okay? Mm-hmm. So it's very interesting when you look at it from that perspective.
It's interesting, too, and I was reading something over the last few days, and Tachi, maybe you can give more light on it. Was there not something written by Issa Rae in a book? And she was talking about the benefits, or almost, it was seeming like she was encouraging black women to marry, was it Japanese or Chinese or Oriental men? And firestorm all over Twitter about this. So can you share a little bit light, or maybe both you know about this one?
Yeah, I read the book.
Yeah, and I'm in the midst of getting through it now. So go ahead, Lia, and I'll chime in.
No, I was just going to say it was a firestorm because she was basically telling black women to date other men, date non-black men, and be cool with it, be happy with it, find love. And sort of the comedic take that she took on it was that if you look at all of the dating applications and the dating apparatus that exists for people like Tinder or whatever, black women are the ones that get the least amount of play. And so she was saying, go find Asian men, because Asian men of all the male demographics are the ones that get the least amount of play. So she was like, you two who are not going to get attention from anybody else need to hook up with each other, because boom, you're going to find love because nobody else is checking for you, is basically what she was saying. Mm-hmm. And so I think it caused a firestorm because everyone's like, how can you say that? Black women are desirable, blah, 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 blah. But the statistics prove That's not the case. It doesn't mean that black women aren't desirable, but the statistics show that in terms of the dating apps and the dating opportunities, it's diminished for Asian men and for black women. So Issa's point, and I agree with her, is explore each other. You're looking for love, why not check out each other and see what's available?
Absolutely. Yeah, and the whole thing is, it's like, it was kind of tongue in cheek. She's serious, but it's like a tongue in cheek type of thing. It's like, all right, the two of you are the most despised. Why don't you get together? And it makes 100% sense. It makes sense. I think that it's interesting how much people have to say about the topic, yet nobody has a solution. Oh, okay, so you don't want us to date anybody other than you, yet there seems to be, and I don't fall into the whole thing of the stereotypical, there are not enough, but there are competing forces for our attention. So rather, you're not interested in my happiness because I should stay single or miserable or alone when there is nobody of my own to be with me. But when I do find somebody who can provide what I need, you have a problem with it. So again, the theme of the night, you are not interested in my happiness.
Okay, we just take a little bit of a break. We're going to do some catch up on some comments here. Dango S says, music entertainment is such a magnet for our youth. I just wonder if there's something out there to sway those thoughts to other areas in life that aren't entertainment, because I would love to see the youth gravitate toward business law ownership. Then Divine Right says, agreed, Soror Tachi. Getting to a point in life where it's not about race, you just want to be with someone who you will generally love, respect you, dig you despite cultural differences. And then she says, I've dated nothing but black men and a couple of Latinos and have had my heart broken. For me, it's all about happiness.
Yeah, that's what it is at the end of the day. We have to, and we're very guilty. Women in general are very guilty of sacrificing their soul for everyone else. But then when you look at black women, because of the inordinate struggles that we've had, not only do we have to deal with the problems of femalehood or womanhood, then we have racism, etc. Dumped on us. So we're dealing with that as well. So you're expected as to be a soldier for the movement and a soldier for the struggle, as opposed to tending to yourselves. So she's absolutely right. At some point you have to decide, I cannot continue to carry the weight of the race on my shoulders. I am only one person. I can still love blackness and be with other people. Pro-black does not mean anti everyone else, and I think that's what we need to get through our skulls.
Exactly. And the other thing that I would add to what Dr. Tachi said was, black women also deal with the whole problem of aesthetics in terms of being the opposite of what the main beauty standard is. So you deal with other races of men who won't date black women too because they don't find them attractive. Why? Because they don't look like what is considered the beauty standard, which is not a black woman. It's typically a white or a Caucasian woman with long hair, light skin, thin body, even though a lot of non-black women are out there trying to get their lips plumped up, their butts plumped up to look like black women. They're out there in their tanning beds to look darker. Yet somehow black femaleness is not the beauty aesthetic. So I think on top of the fact that women have to carry the race, carry pretty much all the responsibilities of being a woman and taking care of our men folk, we also are dealing with being told that we're not beautiful. So then we don't see ourselves as beautiful. And so if we don't see ourselves as beautiful, then no one else will. So that is why I think black women are treated as though they're the undesirables of Western society, even though we actually set the beauty standards in every way. Because if you look at pop culture and the things that are considered the standard of beauty, more and more they're trying to adhere to blackness without looking black.
Oh yeah, no, they want the look.
They're appropriating women's beauty, black women's beauty.
Absolutely, they want the look without the struggle. Kim Kardashian, who said that? Anyway, So it's really it's all well and good and cool to have that appearance because you can't tell me now. So anything they have about the European standard or ideal of beauty as being the thing to achieve is null and void because you've proven that that is not the case. That's something that is created because you have to have something that separates you from others in order to feel good about oppressing them. So the fact that we look so different, that's it. That's the thing that we're going to use to oppress them. And then we'll make up things about intellect. We'll make up things about ability, but we keep knocking the things out of the box. When you look, Black women in this country are the most educated group of people in general. Nigerians are more educated than everybody in this country. Okay? So we keep knocking these fallacies out of the box. So with the beauty thing, the fact that you want a tan, the fact that you want a bigger posterior, the fact that you think small waist and big hips is cute, the fact that you like the fact that there's texture to the hair, that shows that there is something to the beauty of Black women that you are envious of. And that's not saying hate yourself. I think love yourself in whatever way, shape, or form that comes. But what you won't do is denigrate us to make yourselves feel better. What's my thing? Be excellent.
Exactly.
Wow, this is good. Let me ask, what that was outstanding, Tachi. And if I had a mic, I'd drop it right after that. That is good stuff. What do you hear, or do you ever get a chance to hear anything about this subject with younger women of color? Does this ever come up, or do you see anything different? Is it a different experience? Do you ever hear them chat about this, or do you feel they're getting less flack than older women who are in this situation?
For me, I do hear about it from younger females because, as I've mentioned in other conversations, I do a lot of mentoring. And so I mentor a lot of females of color who want to come into the foreign affairs space and kind of spend portions of their adult life overseas, where these standards of beauty continue to be the global norm that we don't necessarily adhere to, even though it's still trying to appropriate from us, but that's a different conversation. But also the issue is that we serve, in terms of my line of work, but in any kind of international affairs career, we serve in countries that are extremely xenophobic and also harbor their own delusions and misconceptions and stereotypes of the Black female. So, I mean, there was just recently an article in the BBC about a woman who used to be a Peace Corps volunteer, and she's lived all over the place, and some of the weird racial encounters that she's had based on not only the fact that she's Black, but she's a Black female specifically. So she was spending time in a place like India where you run the entire color gamut in a country like India, and she's being hit up for sexual favors because the assumption was that she would, because she was the Black female. And a single Black female, so that has its own connotation. It's not like she was traveling with a group of tourists, she was traveling by herself. So already that sort of leads to whatever misconceptions they already have of her, because she was willing to do this, so maybe she'd be willing to do that. But a lot of my young sisters who talk to me about dating in the foreign service or dating in an international affairs career, their concern is exactly this, like, will they be able to find love with non-Black men if they're going to a country that is predominantly non-Black? Or even if they end up going to an African country, of course, you know, there's different ways of life and different mentalities about certain modalities of the family, things like that. They're also worried about stereotypes that they have of African men. So even if they are in a continent where there's Black people everywhere, they're also worried about the differences in terms of cultural standards and expectations. So they're worried that they're going to go to Africa and find their big mandingo guy, but then they're going to have to be subservient to him, which could be completely false. They could go there and find love also, but they just have all of these ideas that they can't find love. They know that they're beautiful, but they don't adhere to the standard of beauty, so they're overlooked, even though when they're trying to be social, or they end up feeling like they have to settle for whatever guy shows them any little bit of attention, and then they're being with someone who is not at their level, because they're afraid to engage with people who might be at their level, but somebody who might be different. So they either end up staying alone and lonely, or they end up settling for someone who, under different circumstances, they would never be with in the first place.
Dr. Tachi, anything to add on that comment?
That's a really rough spot to be in, and particularly when you talk about careers in the foreign service or working for something like the IMF, the IFC, et cetera, all of those types of things, it's really difficult because you do have to think more than other women. We also have to think about quality of life. So for us, it's often a challenge, which can affect you in terms of career as well. When it comes, okay, so take the academy, take academia. They may have positions at the University of Iowa. Do you really want to be at the University of Iowa? Because you're thinking about, okay, well, socially, how is that going to work for me? Am I going to be able to, I want to get married eventually. Am I going to be able to do that if I'm at the University of Idaho? So when you look at those places, same thing with looking overseas, you look at the community and you wonder, is this going to, I know maybe academically, I know maybe career-wise, this is a good move, but socially, is this going to stunt my growth? Am I going to be able to, I have actually a soror who is a professor at, I can't remember the name of the university, but it's in the Ozarks. She was fighting tooth and nail not to go there. But, often, in academia, you don't have a choice of where you go where the job is. And so, you're a fresh new graduate, you're looking, you want to be in some city like Atlanta or Chicago, or, even outskirts of some of the larger cities. You'll do that. You'll do Augusta, Georgia, because that's only like an hour from Atlanta. But you don't always have that's what a lot of people want. So you don't always have that choice. I have another colleague who is at the University of Wyoming at Laramie, Wyoming.
Wow.
So, I was like, how? And she's been there for like 15 years.
Wow.
I'm like, I don't know how you're doing it, but you're doing it. So I guess you could put your mind to it. But what's interesting to look at is their social situations and the relationship situations and how they're able to navigate that. If you go into the situation already with someone, that's one thing. But having to look is a really difficult task. And it does prevent us sometimes from going after positions that would be fruitful for our careers because we're afraid for our social lives as well.
Yep, and it's exactly the same in the Foreign Service. I'll just add a quick point. We don't have that much control over where we go. We go where the government needs us to be, especially in the early stages of our career where we are totally, the entry-level person, so you just go where the needs of service dictate you go. So you may want to go to Brazil or Cuba or somewhere in Latin America or somewhere in sub-Saharan Africa, but you may very well end up in Poland, Iceland, Thailand, Burma. You don't know where you're going to end up. And that can be really stunting in terms of your social development, as Dr. Tachi said. Professionally, you're going to grow, you're going to learn, you will excel, but it's not always all about that. It's about the balance between having something that's fruitful professionally, but also having a fruitful personal life, or at least at a minimum, having viable options of people to date.
Let me ask, with this situation of men getting a pass and women not getting a pass, do you ever hear women of color giving the men a pass? And if you do you confront them on this at all?
I don't have black friends that give them a pass.
Okay,
so
all right.
Just in a situation like that, my friends don't give them a pass if they feel like it's an ingenuine relationship. I mean, I always try to live judgment-free of the decisions of others because I don't know their life. But I feel like the people who I hear kind of giving passes to black males in relationships with non-black women are usually their family members, their cousins, their sisters, their aunties, their mothers, doing what black women have done forever, which is defend and protect and uplift the black man, even if he's denying and thwarting them. So those are basically the women that I hear doing those things. But in my immediate circle, they don't give passes. They'll look at them, and if they think the relationship is not right, then they'll be like, you should be with sister, right? And they'll check them. That's my circle. So I've been fortunate. I haven't had to confront anybody on that point.
Tachi, yourself at all, have you ever had to sort of check someone, a black one out when it comes to this situation at all?
No, I don't really have any friends who give people passes when it comes to that. And, obviously I'm like, as I said, I've dated the gamut. So I look at it from the sense of like, well, I have no business saying anything because I've dated the gamut. But when I dated, I'm also very aware that I'm black, very aware of who I am, and I'm not doing it to water down who I am. So I'm going in because this person is awesome, as opposed to this person can elevate me or do whatever because of who they are. So it's a different case. I really don't have any friends who will give them a pass, but I will say this, that if there is, for example, a black man who dates non-melanated or melanated but not black outside of the race, outside of the ethnicity, and they make excuses for why they went that way as opposed to us, then I'm like, you know what, that's fine, because you're not somebody we need anyway. Go on. Go on and be with whoever, because we don't need you anyway. You are not at the caliber for us to engage in conversation. I bid you adieu.
Ah, that's a Mediascope line right there.
I do.
But that
It
also
is.
leads to another point, though. Another piece of this whole demonization thing is when black women date outside of their race, it's for love. In most cases, they find a genuine connection with somebody else. But what I hear in many cases from black men who date outside the race isn't necessarily because they found this woman more attractive than a black woman, but it's because they have something negative to say about black women. They're too difficult. They don't stay in their place. They don't know how to listen. They give me a hard time. They talk back. These white women or these non-melanated women know their role. They play their position. They're more subservient. So I hear like excuses like that being made, and I really don't know how to reconcile that, because I don't hear that from black women when they date outside of the race. They date outside the race because they met somebody they liked. But when I hear from black men, they usually use their disdain for black women as a reason or an excuse as to why they're dating white women or non-black women. Because black women are like this, and that. That's why I'm not dating a black woman. But I don't hear black women saying that about black men.
Yeah, it's interesting. It's like, okay, you've heard this all the time. It's like, well, when I was like in grade school or when I was in high school, no black women were checking for me. So I'm like, well, could it have been you? Why is it always us that is the problem? Maybe you were just deficient. How about that? But it can never be you. And that's the thing. I think we've also done, here's a self-esteem thing again. We've done such a good job of pumping ourselves up that you believe that nothing is wrong with you. Really? And I'm not just saying black men. I'm saying in general, but we're talking about black men here. I'm like, are you really that secure in yourself that you believe you are not the problem? No, it can't be you. It's all these black women, because you've dated every black woman, by the way, right? And we're all the same.
Yeah, exactly. The other thing that I hate to hear from black men about black women is black women have attitude. Mm-hmm. So because we have bad attitudes, they want to go be with someone who's easier to get along with and stuff like that. I can't stand to hear that, because I'm like, your mama black, your sister black, your auntie black, your grandmama black. So how are you, if you say that about me, you're talking about your own mama, and you know that's not true. And why would you assume, like Dr. Chachi said, that all black women are the same? There's such a range of diversity in any race, that why would that be different for black people? It's not. So I feel like you may have run up against some bad ones. I mean, we all got to go through the frogs to get to the prince, or the princess as it would be. But why would you make that assumption or apply a couple of bad experiences to the whole group? You know, I don't understand that kind of thinking. I don't.
No, and then the whole thing is, oh, but you don't see your attitude. The attitude that you're giving me now. Exactly. I'm like, so we've been so bamboozled into these stereotypes of who we are as people in general, world over, and the one with attitude and unworthiness has just stuck to black women. But I'm like, do you know how many non-melanated women I've seen that have attitude all the time? Do you know how many? Microaggression is attitude. So when you work with some of these non-melanated women and they have all these microaggressions, that's serious attitude. And look at you, sir, young man. What you just gave to me right now was attitude. So the fact that they're so able to, it's deflecting. You see this in yourself And so you deflect it on us. I'm not saying that there are black women that don't have attitude. Absolutely they are. Just like that microaggression white woman that had the attitude too.
Exactly.
So you cannot put it on one ethnicity or one race of people. And it's stupidity. I don't know why we are so, that's another thing. We're too nice to people. You all are stupid that are doing this. I'm not going to sugarcoat it. I am not going to suffer fools. You're stupid. And until you take the time to go and research and understand, I have no use for you. You are a waste of DNA. So.
Yeah. It's true.
I'm loving
exactly.
Tachi.
Like my attitude is, I feel same as Dr. Tachi. Like if I encounter a black man who's saying these types of things, ain't nobody got time for that. I already know where you are mentally, and I'm not going to waste my time trying to convince you otherwise, because I know I couldn't do it even if I wanted to, because you don't hear me. You won't be able to hear me. You won't be able to take on board what I'm trying to say to you. You won't be able to, take on what I'm laying down. So I don't bother. And so in those cases, go on ahead, because you know what? You still gonna have black babies. Even if your woman is white, Asian, or something else non-melanated, because of your ass, your kid's gonna be black. So I don't know what you're gonna do about it, but that's the reality.
And, adding to that, now we're talking about procreating and bringing life. Regardless of whatever, society sees your child as black even if they are half of them black. Society sees them walking down the street and they are black and they are treated as such. And often the acceptance comes from the black side of the family as opposed to the other side of the family. Where do you think they're spending the night at grandma's house and all their cousins? It's usually with the black side of the family. So there's more acceptance. So here's the thing. And it takes a very special person. And these are the things that you think about that are in conversation. You don't have to, you were talking about explaining before. There's nothing that you have to explain to us about raising a black child. But there's all sorts of guidance that is needed, all sorts of questions in your head when you are not black and you're raising a black child. It's difficult. It's very difficult. And I'm not saying that should be a reason. That right there, they can't raise. I'm not saying that. What I am saying is that these are all things that I've heard, and these are all considerations. And it's interesting that nobody thinks or talks about that. You hear the black woman that will whisper, like, you see her hair? Why couldn't she take her to somebody to get her hair done? Those types of things. Mm-hmm. So it's just interesting, because what that says underneath is that you don't trust us, and we are not good enough to raise your children. That's what that says.
Yeah, that's good points. Good points. Well, I just read some comments here that are still coming in here. Dango S says, like I say all the time, the world is slow in regard to race and respect. There needs to be a lesson for all on how to respect everyone. He also says a black woman should be able to go to India without being hit on because of an ignorant stereotype. Mm-hmm. And Divine Right says a waste of DNA. LOL. Agreed.
Yes. Yes.
Excellent. Well, we started a little bit late this evening, so we're going to start winding it down, because these ladies do have lives to lead other than coming on the Dog Vibe show. Actually, Dango S says, oh, hold on, he's got some more things. I've never complained about any black woman. Hell, my mama's black, and that would be crazy if I switched up just because of a failed relationship with a black woman. He also says, and most of the time, women in general thought I was mixed because of my Portuguese name, Diongo. Interesting. Very interesting. So, ladies, call to action on this subject for black men and black women. Who wants to go first?
Go ahead, Tachi.
Okay. I think number one, that we all need to realize that love and relationships can come in any form, and it may not necessarily be wrapped in black, and that's okay. I think that's 100% okay, as long as you understand and know who you are, and you're not going outside because you think who you are is somehow deficient. That's where it's problematic. But other than that, I say enjoy and find the person who respects you and who makes you happy. Secondly, start worrying about black women's happiness. Because let me tell you something, if black women are unhappy, so will you be. So I strongly and highly suggest suggest that you start taking our happiness seriously. And on a serious note, it's like you see when for children when there is kind of unhappiness in the household, they kind of reflect that and they take that in. So you would want to make sure that often the person who is the main caregiver is happy. So if that means that she is with somebody that is not melanated, hooray! Who cares? And thirdly, if you spend as much time, those of you who are naysayers, worrying about yourselves as you did about other people's relationships, I swear you would be Jeff Bezos or Elon Musk right now. Channel that energy someplace else. Please leave people alone. I'm done.
Yes.
Right.
So,
Lia.
left off and say that at the end of the day, I agree, love is love. It takes many forms. There's no ideal form of love. There is nothing more beautiful in my eyes than Black love, but that doesn't mean that you can't love somebody who's not Black and not be happy. I'm the product of an interracial relationship, so I'm living proof that that's the case. But my big thing in all this and why I came up with this topic is because don't let your decision to be with somebody else be based stereotypes and stuff that you yourself are perpetuating and promoting. Because like you said, you may have had one bad relationship. Now you're applying the characteristics of that one female to an entire demographic of women. Take each person on a, face value. Take the opportunity to meet every person and don't close yourself off to certain groups just because you have stereotypes or have a certain belief that all Black women are XYZ way. Because there's no such thing as all of any type of woman. There's all different types of women, different mentalities, different modalities, regardless of race. That's just being a woman. We're diverse in every way. So don't let your reason for dating outside the race be because you are carrying forward these wrong stereotypes of Black women. That would be my call to action to Black men dating outside the race. And Black women, going back to your comment earlier, Dr. Vibe, about Issa Rae's book, date outside the race. Find love. Be happy. That's all that really matters at the end of the day. Ideally, if it's with a Black man, that would be wonderful, but it doesn't have to be. And it's just as beautiful to me if you're truly happy with anyone. So don't be afraid to date, period, but let it be with someone who genuinely loves you for you and doesn't see you as, the excursion into being with a Black woman or the story that they're going to tell. Then that's just what you are. You're a story. But if you find love with somebody who's non-Black, good for you. Be happy.
Well, wonderful way to end up another epic conversation. Like to say thank you as always, ladies. You hit it out of the park. Black Lady Magic happened again on Wednesday night. This is all good. Before we let you go, Tachi, how can people find out more about you?
Okay, so you can reach me on Twitter at Tachiada, Tachiada, which is also my handle on Periscope. On Instagram, I am Dr_Tachi. And I do, because I know he's going to get on me for not saying this, every Wednesday, I do almost 2 hours of fun and foolishness called Mediascope, which is a weekly news show all about media tech and pop culture. Dr. Vibe is one of the great audience members, and that happens between 5 and 5:15 on Instagram. We do the pre-show at 6 p.m. Eastern Time. We're live on Periscope and Facebook Live, and it is an absolute blast. Yeah. So we'd love for you to join us.
It's a lot of fun. Lia?
Okay, so for me, you can find me on my blog, which is liaworldtraveler.com. You can also find me on Facebook at liaworldtraveler.com. You can find me on Instagram and Pinterest at Lia World Traveler. That's LIAWORLDTRAVELER, Lia World Traveler. And on Twitter, I'm at Lia World Travels. So I'd love to interact with you guys on any of those things. And on LinkedIn, you can find me as Lia Miller.
Fantastic. Well, before we jump, there's some more comments here. Divine Right says, yes, children will 100% reflect what they see. Agreed, Soror Tachi. There are no sponges. They are sponges, and we need them to absorb happiness no matter what race their mama or daddy is dating. Happiness is happiness.
Yes.
There you go. And I see Dr. Tachi has responded to Divine Right in the YouTube chat, which is great. I'd like to say thank you to Divine Right, to I'm going to say his name, Diongo. I will say it right now going forward. And others who watch this conversation live on the replay. I am Dr. Vibe, host and producer of the award-winning Dr. Vibe show. If you want to catch replays of epic conversations on YouTube, you're at the place. So you don't have to do anything else. Lazy and easy. If you want to listen to replays of my audio epic conversations, you can go to my website, the drvibeshow.com. You can also listen at Apple Podcasts, Stitcher Radio, TuneIn Radio, Google Play Music, and iHeartRadio. Selected audio replays at thegoodmenproject.com and also WJMS Radio out of New York. And if you are following me on Periscope, I'm now beginning to do replays of some of the epic conversations I've had video-wise over the last 2 years. And probably tomorrow night at 9 o'clock, you'll see the first time that these ladies were together on my platform. So just follow me on Periscope and you'll see them live. And this is why we're doing it again tonight, because so many people come on when they're dropping knowledge bombs. Check it out. I am. You can also check me out if you're looking for some empowerment coaching. I'm a certified empowerment coach, president and CEO of Express Your Vibe Coaching Communications. If you want to touch base with me at Twitter, it's drvibeshow. Email dr.vibe at the drvibeshow.com. Brand ambassador for Cuisine Noir magazine, the only magazine that features African Americans in food, wine, and travel. Website address cuisinenoirmag.com. And finally, if you would like help, if you're a business or entrepreneur getting media promotion, I run a service called Getting Media Coverage. Real simple. So, one other thing. Dr. Tachi, one of the shows she does, got some acclaim. So why don't you tell us quickly what the acclaim that you got?
Oh, you mean the podcast?
Yes.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, yeah.
So I also am the co-host. I forgot. I keep forgetting.
Yes.
I'm the co-host of a podcast called TV Channeling. Me and my wonderful friend Kevin, who is out in LA, do a podcast on TV. And we do TV reviews. We talk about film and entertainment, basically the industry. And we were featured in 25 podcasts you should be listening to now. So by Soapbox Magazine. So yeah.
Congratulations.
That's awesome.
Thank you.
That is fantastic. See, if I didn't ask Tachi about it, she would have never spoke about it. But that's how she's humble. She's very, very humble about that. We'll just end up with a few things. Actually, I have a little bit of an announcement starting in about either this Monday or the following Monday, in a collaboration with the Good Men Project, one of my great collaborators. I'm going to be doing weekly conversations about CTE and the effects that it has on participants in sports. I will be, over the next 2 months, interviewing ex-football players, also parent advocates in the whole area of CTE. I basically am booked for about 2 months worth of Mondays. So follow me on Twitter in regards to that and other things to come. So 3 last things I like to say. Live your life as a dream. If you can dream it, you can make it. Also, sometimes you have to get smaller to get stronger. And finally, block assumptions. Oh, one other thing. Tachi, what are we talking about next week?
Oh,
yeah.
Yes. HBCUs, I don't want to say versus, but looking at attending an HBCU versus PWI, also known as a predominantly white institution, especially since the performance of Beyonce at Coachella had an HBCU theme. So I'm seeing Twitter rings on social media about that, and a lot of people talked about how kind of like that whole different world effect, and students are taking second and third looks at HBCUs. So I thought that was interesting.
Excellent. That is, looking forward to that epic conversation. And I always love when my friends bring great conversation topics that you don't see being talked about online, traditional or social media. So get ready for that. That's going to be excellent. And Diongo, I do have your Twitter handle, so I'm going to start following you after this conversation. God bless. Peace to you all. Keep the faith. And my heritage would always say, walk good. Thanks for listening and watching. See you soon. Good night. What is up, everybody? It's Dr. Vibe here, host and producer of the award-winning The Dr. Vibe Show. I have hosted and produced over 2,000 epic conversations over the last 10 years. And what makes our conversations epic? We don't do interviews. We do conversations.